Picture this. It's 11 p.m. on a Thursday night in Manhattan, and Sarah sits in her studio apartment, phone in hand, refreshing Instagram for the 5th time in 10 minutes. She's waiting for that text back from the guy she met at a networking event, waiting for likes on her latest post, waiting for any sign that she matters to someone else. Sound familiar? In our hyper-connected world of dating apps, social media metrics, and constant communication, we've created a paradox where the more we chase connection, the more disconnected we become from ourselves. This isn't just Sarah's story, it's the story of millions of Americans living in cities from New York to Los Angeles, from Chicago to Miami. We've become addicted to external validation, measuring our worth by the speed of text responses, the number of Instagram likes, and whether someone is thinking of us. We've handed over the keys to our happiness to people who may not even deserve a parking space in our emotional lives. But what if I told you there's an ancient philosophy that offers a completely different approach, one that's not only more fulfilling but ironically makes you far more attractive and memorable to others? Welcome to Stoicism, a 2,000-year-old philosophy that has guided emperors, entrepreneurs, and everyday people through life's greatest challenges. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his personal journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This isn't just ancient wisdom gathering dust in a library. This is a revolutionary approach to modern relationships and personal fulfillment. Here's the counterintuitive truth that Stoicism teaches us: by focusing on self-improvement, developing emotional independence, and learning to appreciate the present moment without desperate attachment, we become magnetic. Not through manipulation or playing hard to get, but through genuine self-sufficiency and contentment. When you're not constantly seeking validation, people notice. When you're passionate about your own growth and pursuits, others are drawn to that energy. Think about the most attractive people you know, not just physically, but genuinely magnetic individuals. They're usually the ones who seem complete on their own, who have rich inner lives, who don't need constant reassurance. They're living examples of what the Stoics called autarkia, self-sufficiency. Today, we're going to explore how embracing Stoic principles can transform not just your relationships, but your entire approach to life. We'll discover how to build unshakable inner strength, develop emotional resilience that makes you incredibly attractive, create a meaningful life that others want to be part of, and learn the liberating art of letting go of what you can't control. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent, it's about becoming so grounded in your own worth and purpose that others naturally gravitate toward your authentic confidence. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why the ancient Stoics knew something we're just rediscovering. The most attractive thing about a person isn't their need for you, but their ability to thrive without you while choosing to share their life with you. 1. The foundation of inner strength. Meet Michael, a 28-year-old software engineer in San Francisco's bustling tech scene. Every morning, he checks his phone before his feet hit the floor, scanning for messages from his ex-girlfriend who broke up with him 3 months ago, refreshing LinkedIn to see how many people viewed his latest post, and scrolling through dating apps hoping for matches. His mood for the entire day depends on these digital interactions. If his ex viewed his Instagram story, he feels hopeful. If his LinkedIn post gets fewer than 10 likes, he questions his professional worth. If no one matches with him on dating apps, he assumes he's fundamentally unlovable. Sound exhausting? It is. And Michael represents millions of Americans trapped in what the Stoics would call the external validation trap. We live in a culture that has turned external approval into a drug more addictive than any substance. From the moment we wake up to our smartphones buzzing with notifications to the last scroll through social media before bed, we're constantly measuring our worth by others' reactions. We check how many likes our photos get, analyze response times to our texts with the precision of FBI investigators, and base our self-esteem on whether we're invited to that weekend party or promoted at work. This isn't just unhealthy, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of where true strength and attractiveness come from. The ancient Stoics understood something profound that our modern world has forgotten. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest philosophers, taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Think about the revolutionary power in that statement. Epictetus literally had no control over his external circumstances. He was enslaved, physically disabled, and owned by another human being. Yet he became one of the most influential teachers in human history because he mastered the one thing no one could take from him: his inner world, his responses, his character. This is the foundation of Stoic inner strength, and it's exactly what makes someone irresistibly attractive in our modern world. When you stop giving away your power to external circumstances and other people's opinions, something magical happens. You become self-possessed in the truest sense of the word. You develop what the Greeks called ataraxia, unshakable tranquility that doesn't depend on external conditions. Let's break down the Stoic approach to building this foundation. The Stoics identified four cardinal virtues that form the bedrock of inner strength: wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts gathering dust in ancient texts. They're practical tools for navigating daily life in modern America, from Manhattan boardrooms to Los Angeles coffee shops. Wisdom means learning to distinguish between what you can and cannot control with laser-like precision. In Michael's case, he can control his professional development by learning new programming languages, his health habits by maintaining a consistent workout routine, his response to his ex-girlfriend's silence by choosing not to check her social media, and how he presents himself authentically on dating apps. He cannot control whether his ex texts him back, whether his LinkedIn post goes viral, whether his boss promotes him this quarter, or whether someone swipes right on his profile. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present," reminding us that wisdom lies in focusing our energy where it can actually make a difference. This isn't passive acceptance. It's strategic energy allocation. Courage isn't just physical bravery in the face of danger. It's the emotional and moral courage to face uncertainty without needing constant reassurance from others. It's having difficult conversations about your needs and relationships, pursuing your entrepreneurial dreams despite potential failure, and maintaining your values even when it's socially unpopular or professionally risky. In Chicago, Jennifer, a corporate lawyer, demonstrates this courage every time she speaks up in meetings without worrying about whether her male colleagues approve of her ideas, every time she sets boundaries with demanding clients, and every time she chooses authenticity over people-pleasing. Seneca wrote, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it." Justice involves treating others with respect and fairness while maintaining healthy boundaries for yourself. It means building relationships based on mutual value and genuine connection rather than neediness, manipulation, or transactional exchanges. The Stoics believe that we're all part of a larger human community, and our strength comes from contributing to others' well-being while maintaining our own integrity. This virtue prevents us from becoming either doormats or tyrants in our relationships. Moderation is perhaps the most relevant virtue for our instant gratification, more is always better culture. It's the ability to enjoy pleasures without being enslaved by them, to desire connection without being desperate for it, and to appreciate others' attention without depending on it for your self-worth. Is checking social media once a day instead of once every 10 minutes, enjoying a great date without immediately planning your wedding, and appreciating compliments without needing them to function. Here's where the Stoic approach becomes counterintuitive and incredibly powerful. When you build your life on these virtues rather than external validation, you become naturally magnetic. People are drawn to individuals who seem complete, who have their own goals and passions, who don't need constant reassurance. Think about it. Who would you rather spend time with? Someone who's constantly seeking your approval and validation, hanging on your every word and reaction, or someone who genuinely enjoys your company but would be perfectly fine and fulfilled without it? Seneca, the Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, observed, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This applies perfectly to breaking free from validation-seeking behaviors. You must consciously end your dependency on others' opinions and approval to begin building genuine, unshakable self-worth. The practical application starts with rigorous daily self-examination. Each evening, ask yourself these specific questions. What did I do today that was completely within my control? What external events did I allow to affect my mood unnecessarily? How many times did I check social media seeking validation? What decisions did I make based on my values versus others' potential reactions? How can I respond better tomorrow? This isn't harsh self-criticism. It's compassionate self-awareness, the foundation of all meaningful growth and transformation. Start investing in yourself with the same energy and attention you've been investing in seeking others' approval. Learn new skills that genuinely interest and challenge you, not just ones that might impress others or look good on your resume. In Los Angeles, David, an aspiring entrepreneur, stopped posting every half-formed business idea on social media for validation and instead spent that time actually researching markets, developing prototypes, and building real skills. The result? His confidence grew exponentially, his ideas improved dramatically, and ironically, people became far more interested in what he was quietly accomplishing. 2. Mastering emotional independence. Ashley sits in her Boston apartment on a rainy Tuesday evening, staring at her phone. Her boyfriend of 6 months hasn't responded to her text from this morning, and her mind is spiraling into familiar territory. Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? Should I send another message? Her heart rate increases, her stomach knots, and suddenly her entire emotional state depends on whether a notification appears on her screen. 3 hours later, when he finally texts back with a simple, "Sorry, crazy day at work," she feels instant relief until the cycle begins again the next day. This scenario plays out millions of times across American cities every day. We've become emotional hostages to external circumstances, allowing other people's moods, responses, and behaviors to dictate our inner peace. But what if there was a different way? What if you could maintain your emotional equilibrium regardless of what's happening around you? The Stoics mastered this art 2,000 years ago, and their teachings offer us a roadmap to emotional independence that's more relevant today than ever. At the heart of Stoicism lies a revolutionary understanding. Our reactions to external events are within our control, even when the events themselves are not. This isn't just philosophical theory, it's a practical superpower that transforms how you move through the world. Epictetus, who understood suffering intimately, taught his students, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But he went deeper, explaining that our emotional disturbance comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about those events. When Ashley's boyfriend doesn't text back immediately, the delay itself is neutral. It's her interpretation he must be losing interest that creates her emotional turmoil. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his personal journal while managing an empire and fighting wars, reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Imagine the Emperor of Rome dealing with political intrigue, military campaigns, and personal losses, yet maintaining his focus on what he could actually control, his thoughts, decisions, and responses. Emotional resilience, according to Stoic philosophy, isn't about suppressing feelings or becoming a robot. It's about acknowledging emotions, understanding their source, and choosing not to let them dictate your actions. This distinction is crucial in our therapy-saturated culture that often confuses feeling emotions with being controlled by them. Consider James, a marketing director in Chicago who recently went through a difficult breakup. Instead of immediately jumping into rebound relationships or drowning his sorrows, he applied Stoic principles. When waves of sadness hit, he acknowledged them. "I'm feeling grief about this relationship ending." But instead of letting that grief drive him to desperate texts or social media stalking, he used it as information about what he valued and what he wanted to create in future relationships. The Stoics understood that emotional independence doesn't mean isolation, quite the opposite. When you're not emotionally dependent on others for validation or mood regulation, you can engage in relationships from a position of strength rather than neediness. You can love deeply without losing yourself, care genuinely without becoming codependent, and maintain your emotional center even when others are in chaos. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." To begin emotional independence, you must end the habit of outsourcing your emotional state to external circumstances. This requires what the Stoics called prosoche, continuous attention to your thoughts and reactions. Here's a practical framework for developing emotional independence. Start each day with what Marcus Aurelius called morning reflection. Before checking your phone or engaging with the outside world, spend 5 minutes considering, what challenges might I face today? How do I want to respond to them? What's within my control in these situations? This isn't pessimistic planning, it's emotional preparation. Throughout the day, practice what Epictetus called the discipline of desire. When you notice yourself becoming emotionally reactive to someone's behavior, a delayed response, a canceled plan, a critical comment, pause and ask, is my emotional reaction proportional to what actually happened? Or am I adding interpretations and assumptions? Often, you'll discover that your story about the event is causing more distress than the event itself. In New York City, Maria, a financial analyst, used to let her boss's moods determine her entire day. If he seemed stressed or short with her, she'd spend hours analyzing what she might have done wrong, her productivity would plummet, and she'd go home emotionally drained. After studying Stoic principles, she learned to separate his emotional state from her professional performance. She realized that his stress often had nothing to do with her work and everything to do with pressures she couldn't see or control. The Stoics also taught the importance of negative visualization, imagining loss, not to become pessimistic, but to appreciate what you have and prepare emotionally for life's inevitable changes. This practice builds emotional resilience by reducing the shock of unexpected events. When you've mentally rehearsed various scenarios, you're less likely to be emotionally devastated when challenges arise. Evening reflection completes the daily cycle of emotional independence. Ask yourself, when did I react emotionally today instead of responding thoughtfully? What triggered those reactions? How can I handle similar situations better tomorrow? This isn't self-judgment, it's self-improvement through honest assessment. The paradox of emotional independence is that it makes you more attractive, not less. People are drawn to those who seem emotionally stable and self-possessed. When you're not constantly seeking reassurance or validation, others feel comfortable being themselves around you. When you don't need them to manage your emotions, they can focus on enjoying your company rather than walking on eggshells. Epictetus taught his students, "No one can hurt you without your permission." This doesn't mean others' actions don't affect you, it means you choose how much power to give those actions over your emotional state. When Ashley learned this principle, her relationship dynamics transformed. She stopped interpreting every delayed response as rejection, which made her more pleasant to be around, which ironically made her boyfriend more eager to communicate with her. The Stoics understood that true freedom isn't political or financial, it's emotional. When you're no longer enslaved to external circumstances for your peace of mind, you become truly free to choose your responses, build genuine relationships, and create the life you actually want rather than merely reacting to whatever happens to you. 3. Building a life of purpose and virtue. It's 7 a.m. in downtown Los Angeles, and Rebecca sits in her corner office on the 32nd floor, staring out at the sprawling city below. She's 31, makes 6 figures as a marketing executive, drives a luxury car, and lives in a trendy apartment in West Hollywood. By every external measure, she's successful. Yet she feels hollow, like she's living someone else's life. Her days blur together in an endless cycle of meetings, metrics, and meaningless small talk. She dates but never feels truly connected. She socializes but rarely feels understood. She achieves but never feels fulfilled. Sound familiar? Rebecca's story echoes across American cities from Seattle to Miami. We've created a culture obsessed with external markers of success while neglecting the internal compass that gives life meaning. We chase promotions, accumulate possessions, and collect experiences, hoping they'll fill the void inside us. But as countless successful yet miserable people can attest, external achievements without internal purpose lead to what the ancient Greeks called akidia, a profound spiritual emptiness. The Stoic philosophers understood this dilemma intimately. Marcus Aurelius, who literally had everything, absolute power, immense wealth, and global influence, wrote in his private journal, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." Even as Emperor of Rome, he recognized that true fulfillment comes not from what you possess or control, but from how you contribute to the human community and live according to your deepest values. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, observed, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." This wasn't ascetic philosophy from someone who'd never experienced material success. This was wisdom from someone who'd achieved everything society promised would make him happy, only to discover that happiness lay elsewhere entirely. The Stoics identified virtue as the only true good, not because they were moral purists, but because they recognized that virtue is the only thing that remains entirely within our control and provides lasting satisfaction. While external goods can be lost, stolen, or destroyed, your character, your integrity, and your commitment to living according to your values remain yours regardless of circumstances. This understanding transforms how we approach building a meaningful life. Instead of asking, "What will make me happy?" or "What will others think is impressive?" we learn to ask, "What kind of person do I want to become? And how can I contribute something valuable to the world?" Consider Marcus, a 29-year-old software developer in Austin who was earning $200,000 a year but felt increasingly disconnected from his work. He spent his days building apps designed to capture people's attention and sell them things they didn't need. After discovering Stoic philosophy, he began asking different questions. Is my work contributing to human flourishing? Am I using my talents in service of something meaningful? These questions led him to transition into developing educational software for underserved communities, a career change that reduced his salary but dramatically increased his sense of purpose. The Stoics taught that meaningful work isn't necessarily about your job title or industry, it's about bringing virtue to whatever you do. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave, found meaning not in his circumstances but in how he responded to them. He taught that we can practice virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation in any situation, from the boardroom to the grocery store. Wisdom in daily life means continuously learning, questioning assumptions, and making decisions based on careful thought rather than impulse or social pressure. In Chicago, David, a financial advisor, practices wisdom by thoroughly researching investment options for his clients rather than simply selling whatever products generate the highest commissions. This approach has built his reputation and created genuine value for others. Courage manifests not just in dramatic moments but in everyday choices to do what's right despite potential consequences. It's speaking up when you witness injustice, pursuing your authentic goals despite others' skepticism, and having difficult conversations that strengthen relationships. Sarah, a teacher in Philadelphia, demonstrates courage every time she advocates for her students' needs, even when it puts her at odds with administrators focused solely on test scores. Justice involves treating others fairly and contributing to the common good. The Stoics believed we're all part of an interconnected human community, and our individual flourishing is tied to collective well-being. This doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for others, but rather finding ways to succeed that also benefit those around you. In Seattle, Jennifer runs a coffee shop that pays living wages, sources ethically, and serves as a community gathering space, proving that business success and social responsibility can align. Moderation helps us enjoy life's pleasures without being enslaved by them. It's appreciating success without becoming arrogant, enjoying relationships without becoming possessive, and pursuing goals without becoming obsessed. This virtue is particularly relevant in our culture of excess, where more is always assumed to be better. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of memento mori, remembering that life is finite. This isn't morbid pessimism but motivational clarity. When you truly internalize that your time is limited, you become more intentional about how you spend it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people but care more about their opinion than our own." Building a meaningful life requires what the Stoics called sympathia, understanding your connection to the larger whole. Your individual purpose isn't separate from but intertwined with the well-being of your community, your relationships, and future generations. This perspective transforms daily activities from self-serving tasks into contributions to something larger than yourself. Practical application begins with values clarification. Spend time identifying what truly matters to you, not what your parents, society, or social media suggests should matter, but what resonates with your deepest convictions. Write these values down and regularly assess whether your daily choices align with them. Next, look for ways to serve others through your unique talents and circumstances. Seneca taught, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Perhaps it's time to end the pursuit of empty achievements and begin creating something meaningful. This might mean changing careers, volunteering in your community, or simply bringing more intentionality to your current role. The Stoics understood that a meaningful life isn't achieved through a single dramatic transformation but through countless small choices made consistently over time. Each decision to act with virtue, each moment of choosing purpose over pleasure, each instance of contributing to others' well-being builds toward a life of profound satisfaction and authentic attractiveness. When you're living according to your deepest values and contributing meaningfully to the world, you become magnetic not because you're trying to attract others, but because you're fully alive, engaged, and purposeful. People are naturally drawn to those who seem to have found something worth living for. 4. The liberation of letting go. Picture this. It's 2 a.m. in Manhattan and Alex lies awake in his studio apartment, mind racing with scenarios he can't control. He's replaying the conversation with his boss from 3 days ago, analyzing every word, every facial expression, trying to decode whether his job is secure. He's crafting the perfect text to send to the woman he's been dating, deleting and rewriting it for the 5th time, desperate to control how she perceives him. He's checking his investment portfolio obsessively, as if staring at the numbers will somehow influence market forces. His muscles are tense, his jaw clenched, his entire being consumed with the exhausting effort of trying to control the uncontrollable. Alex represents millions of Americans living in a state of chronic anxiety, desperately trying to micromanage outcomes that lie far beyond their influence. We've become a society of control addicts, convinced that if we just worry enough, plan enough, or manipulate enough, we can bend reality to our will. This illusion of control isn't just mentally exhausting, it's the source of most of our suffering and the very thing that makes us less attractive to others. The Stoic philosophers identified this fundamental human error over 2 millennia ago. Epictetus, drawing from his experience as a slave who literally had no control over his external circumstances, taught the most liberating lesson in human history: some things are within our power, while others are not. This simple statement, known as the dichotomy of control, is the master key to human freedom and peace. What exactly is within our control? Our judgments, our decisions, our responses, our effort, and our character. What lies outside our control? Other people's thoughts and actions, natural disasters, economic conditions, the past, the future, and ultimately, most outcomes. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself while managing an empire, reminded himself daily, confine yourself to the present and to what you can control. The tragedy is that most people spend 90% of their mental energy on the 10% of life they can't control, while neglecting the 10% where they have complete sovereignty. This backwards approach creates a life of perpetual frustration, anxiety, and powerlessness. Consider Rachel, a marketing director in Chicago who used to obsess over every client meeting. She'd spend hours crafting the perfect presentation, then lie awake the night before imagining every possible objection and rehearsing responses. During meetings, she'd watch faces obsessively, trying to read minds and control reactions. When clients didn't respond immediately to proposals, she'd send follow-up emails, make unnecessary calls, and generally exhaust herself trying to force outcomes. After discovering Stoic principles, Rachel transformed her approach. She still prepared thoroughly, that was within her control. But she learned to detach from outcomes. She'd present her best work, answer questions honestly, and then let go. This shift didn't just reduce her stress, it made her more effective. Clients sensed her confidence and authenticity, leading to better relationships and, ironically, better results. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Our minds are prediction machines, constantly generating scenarios about what might happen, most of which never materialize. We torture ourselves with imaginary futures, replaying past conversations and trying to control variables that exist only in our heads. The practice of letting go begins with radical acceptance of what Buddhists call impermanence and Stoics understood as the natural order. Everything changes. Relationships evolve. Careers shift. Health fluctuates. Markets rise and fall. Fighting this fundamental truth is like trying to stop waves with your bare hands, exhausting and futile. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. The Stoics were some of history's most accomplished individuals precisely because they focused their energy where it could make a difference. Marcus Aurelius didn't neglect his duties as emperor, he performed them excellently while accepting that he couldn't control every outcome. Seneca didn't avoid business, he became wealthy while understanding that external circumstances could change at any moment. The key distinction is between attachment and engagement. You can be fully engaged in your work, relationships, and goals while remaining unattached to specific outcomes. This paradox, caring deeply while holding lightly, is the secret to both peace and effectiveness. In Los Angeles, Michael, an aspiring actor, exemplifies this principle. For years, he was attached to every audition, devastated by rejections, and constantly trying to network his way to success. He'd analyze casting directors' reactions, send desperate follow-up emails, and exhaust himself trying to control an inherently unpredictable industry. After embracing Stoic philosophy, he shifted his focus to what he could control: his craft, his preparation, his professionalism, and his response to both success and failure. This detachment from outcomes made him more present in auditions, more resilient in facing rejection, and ultimately more attractive to casting directors who sensed his genuine confidence rather than desperate neediness. Epictetus taught his students, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, instead wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will do well." This isn't passive resignation but active alignment with reality. When you stop fighting what is, you free up enormous energy to influence what can be changed. The practice of letting go involves several daily disciplines. First, morning intention setting. Before engaging with the world, clarify what you can and cannot control today. Write down your intentions for how you want to show up, regardless of others' responses. Second, evening reflection. Review moments when you tried to control the uncontrollable and notice how it felt versus times when you focused on your response and effort. Another powerful practice is negative visualization, imagining loss, not to become pessimistic but to appreciate what you have and prepare emotionally for change. When you mentally rehearse your business failing, your relationship ending, or your health declining, you develop resilience and reduce attachment to outcomes you can't guarantee. The Stoics also practiced view from above, imagining your current concerns from the perspective of years, decades, or centuries. Will the thing you're trying to control matter in 10 years? This cosmic perspective doesn't minimize legitimate concerns but puts them in proper proportion. Perhaps most importantly, letting go requires faith, not religious faith necessarily, but trust in your ability to handle whatever comes. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate. When you truly believe you can respond well to any circumstance, you no longer need to control circumstances. The liberation that comes from letting go is profound. Your shoulders relax. Your sleep improves. Your relationships deepen because you're no longer trying to manage others' emotions or responses. You become more present because you're not constantly planning and worrying about the future. You become more attractive because desperation is replaced by confidence, neediness by self-sufficiency. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully: accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together. This isn't passive acceptance but active embrace of life as it unfolds, while maintaining complete responsibility for your character and responses. When you truly let go of the need to control outcomes, you discover something remarkable. You often get better results because you're operating from a place of strength rather than fear, confidence rather than desperation, and authentic engagement rather than manipulative attachment. As we reach the end of our exploration into Stoic wisdom for modern relationships, take a moment to imagine the person you could become. Picture yourself 6 months from now, walking through your city with quiet confidence, no longer checking your phone every few minutes for validation, engaging in conversations without desperately seeking approval. pursuing your goals with passionate focus rather than anxious attachment to outcomes. This isn't fantasy, this is the natural result of applying Stoic principles to your daily life. The ancient Stoics understood something our modern world has forgotten. True attractiveness comes not from neediness but from completeness, not from desperation but from contentment, not from trying to control others but from mastering yourself. When you embody these principles, you become what Marcus Aurelius called a citizen of the world, someone who contributes value wherever they go and remains unshaken by external circumstances. Remember Sarah from Manhattan constantly refreshing her phone for validation? By focusing on self-improvement and emotional independence, she discovered that the attention she craved naturally followed when she stopped chasing it. Michael in San Francisco, who used to give his power away to others' opinions, learned to build his worth from within and found that people were drawn to his newfound self-assurance. These transformations aren't miraculous, they're the predictable result of aligning your life with timeless wisdom. The journey begins with a single decision: to stop outsourcing your happiness to external circumstances and start building it from within. Every morning presents new opportunities to practice Stoic virtues: wisdom in your choices, courage in your actions, justice in your relationships, and moderation in your desires. Every evening offers a chance to reflect on your growth and prepare for tomorrow's challenges. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Today marks the end of living at the mercy of others' opinions and the beginning of authentic self-possession. The path isn't always easy, but it's infinitely rewarding. As you develop emotional resilience, create meaningful purpose, and release the need to control outcomes, you'll discover that the life you've been seeking was always within your reach. The Stoics taught that we're all connected in the great human community, learning from each other and growing together. Your journey toward authentic magnetism doesn't just benefit you, it inspires others to discover their own inner strength and creates ripple effects of positive change in your relationships and community. If this message resonates with you, I encourage you to subscribe to Stoic Vivu, where we explore how ancient wisdom can transform modern life. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of individuals committed to living with purpose, resilience, and authentic confidence. Like this video if it provided value and share it with someone who might benefit from these timeless teachings. Remember Marcus Aurelius's profound insight: the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. The best response to a world obsessed with external validation is to become someone who doesn't need it. Your journey to authentic magnetism starts now, not through manipulation or games, but through the noble path of becoming your most complete, virtuous, and genuinely attractive self.